Psalms 37, 23 and 24, especially focusing on 24 today. Throughout these Psalms, we see how David has so many things to say. Though there are a lot of teachings here in this chapter, I'd like to focus on verse 23 and 24. As we know, David, a man who's struggling a lot to survive. His life was always in danger. Yet we see how our Lord helped him, how he was being sustained in this life. In verse 23 we see of chapter 37 of Psalms, it says, "If the Lord delights in a man's way, he makes his steps firm. Though he stumble, he will not fall, for the Lord upholds him with his hand." I'd like to share this message with a short story. It happened quite a long back in the US when the United States had slavery as part of their day-to-day life. The slavery was prominent those times. In one of the master's house, he was a master of plantation and he had quite slaves with him. They decided to go for hunting ducks. And when they were going for hunting ducks, the slave named Sam and the master, they both were going together. And the master was an atheist. He was not believing in any forms of God or any religious aspect or anything. He was an atheist. But the slave who was with him, he was a Christian. On their way, they met a small accident on the carriage. So the carriage was slightly broken and the slave was trying to fix it. And when he was fixing it, he accidentally hit his hand while hammering the carriage. And when he hit his hand, in that pain, he started to say some bad words. As he shouted some bad words, he knelt down and he asked for forgiveness. He prayed to God, "Oh Lord, please forgive me. I said few bad words." By hearing this, the master comes to him and he says, "Son, you're a Christian, but why do you struggle so much to live? Look at you, how much you're afraid and how much you're struggling. And look at me, I who don't believe in God, I live very well." He told that as their goal was to hunt, the master shot 2 ducks. The master tells to Sam to go and get the ducks. And he says, "Bring only the one which is alive and struggling and leave off the dead one." The master doesn't want the dead duck, but the duck which is hurt and is still alive. He wants that duck. And the servant took the wounded duck, which was not dead, and he came back to the master and he said, "Well, sir, you said Christianity is no good because I struggle to live. I am like this struggling duck, this wounded duck, because I struggle to live. You are like dead duck and I am like the wounded duck." In meaning that he's saying that the devil is after me, who's wounded, and I'm struggling. But you're like a dead duck who is not after you. It angered master, but yet it was made him to realize how much he was misunderstanding the concept of life and how much he misunderstood the concept of God. Here, so it's not only for the master who learned something, but even for us as Christians today, we live Christ-honoring life. We may be suffering, but we are not dead. Here, as the David says in verse 24, he says, "Though he may stumble, he will not fall." He will not fall because why? Because Lord upholds him. He upholds him with his hand because he gets the strength from God. Though he may stumble, though he may have sufferings, we see how God upholds him in all those sufferings, in all those struggles. Though he is wounded, who is there with him? God is there with him to heal him. He is not dead. That is the difference between having Christ and not having Christ in our life. Today, in this life, we may be struggling so much, but in the struggles, do we have God by our side? Even when we stumble, we may not fall when we have God with us. But when we don't have God with us, we will fall down. We will be like this dead duck. For example, these struggles that we go through is a sign of life that we are holding. It is the sign of life. We should not take these struggles and be disappointed and to be dead. It should not lead us to our death in our belief, in our faith, in our hope. Rather, we should struggle, we should strive to live in our faith, in our belief, in our life. Even though we know the victory is ours, but yet we fall down, yet we fail. But what enables us? It is the God's grace which enables us to gather. And it is His grace that gives us the hope. It is His grace that makes us to get up and to move. Overall, the struggles, the despair, everything, we may stumble today, but we are still alive. In our struggles, we have to glorify God. The only thing we need to remember us is, are we in God's side, or is God is in our side, or we are not in His side? You see, when God is with us, even though we may fall down, we will get up. But if we fall down, we should not be dead. If God is not with us, we are dead. I'm not talking literally here, like in our spiritually, in our mentally, we need help. You know, each and every day we struggle. We may stumble. This life is not like a smooth line. Rather than being dead, it is better to live. It is better to have life. And obviously, how the Master wants only the wounded duck, just like that, even the devil is after the wounded person, like us. If you are wounded, if you are struggling, in other words, we struggle in order to live and glorify God. We should use those struggles in glorifying God. And the devil will be after us, because it's not that we will not be wounded. We have the healer with us. And we need to make use of this opportunity in depending on God. Let us be closer to God so that even we may fall. It is all about the righteous, not the wickedness. And we should not be wicked. We should strive to be righteous and trying to follow God's way. Then only we'll be gotten up. Then only we'll not stumble. Even though we stumble, we get up. If you are not righteous, if you are not trying to be righteous, and if our wickedness is growing every day, if we stumble, we will fall and we will fail. But if we are trying to be righteous, even when we stumble, we can get up by God's grace. And there's a saying, it goes like, to rejoice in righteousness and grieve over wickedness is proof of a genuine Christian. At least we should try a little bit to be righteous, not living in our wickedness, trying to avoid the wickedness and knowing ourselves to not indulge in any wickedness, but rather thriving and to try to survive in righteousness. We see that how genuine we can be and how closer we can be to God. And surely God will enable us and He will uphold us in His hand. He will not leave us. He will not leave us to fall down and fail. Even if we fall, He'll make us to get up. And we need to have that mindset. In each and everyday struggle, let us remember to keep God in our sight. Amen.